Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Krishna and I'm a programming manager at the Map Academy, and I'm so delighted to welcome all of you this evening. Small note, the session's being recorded. I hope all of you are comfortable with that. This event is part of our Map Academy live program where we curate expert-led talks at the intersection of art history, research, culture, practice. And today's MA Live, for today's MA Live, we're super excited to have with us Varun Gupta. Varun is the co-founder of the Chennai Photo Biennale, which happens to be one of its kind for photography in India. Um, I'm sure all of you already know a lot about Varun, but just to remind you, Varun wears many hats. He's based in Chennai. He's a photographer himself. He's an entrepreneur and the director of the CPB Foundation, the non-profit photography organization that hosts the Biennale. Previously, he has founded Traveling Lens, a company that organized photography workshops and holidays in remote areas in India. Varun runs the Photo Seva, a long-term portraiture project where he travels to make portraits of local communities across India with a large format camera and a B&W film. In 2023, Varun helped establish the CPB Lighthouse in Chennai, which houses a large-scale community darkroom that allows youngsters to discover historical photography practices. Varun also serves as a collaborator and advisor to Photo Australia in Melbourne and the Belfast Photo Festival in the UK. Today, he'll be sharing with us insights into the making of the CPB. And before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate him and his team on the recently concluded, highly successful fourth edition of the CPB titled Why Photograph. The talk will be followed by a Q&A, and in case you have any questions for him, you can drop them in the chat during the course of the presentation, and we'll be opening up the floor for discussion after the talk. So yeah, over to you, Varun. Just one small housekeeping note before we begin. It would be great if all of you could keep yourself muted through the talk and keep your cameras off for now, just so that we have a smooth experience. Thank you so much. And Varun, over to you.
Thank you so much, Krishna. Thank you to Map Academy for having me. It's a pleasure. We're coming off this sort of whirlwind experience of the Chennai Photo Biennale Edition 4. It's been amazing. It was one of our biggest editions yet. And I will paint a picture. In fact, today I was asked to come for 40 minutes to present the behind the Chennai Photo Biennale. And I think there's lots that I have to share almost from 2016 to now, 4 editions. I have a presentation that I'll bring up. I do want to sort of thank my entire team, who probably some of them are listening, for making CPB4 a success. And also all the artists, the curators, and all our collaborators, and of course our partners, donors, and sponsors who've sort of like brought us to a milestone edition of the Biennale. I will come to the fourth edition at the end of my presentation. I wanted to always start in the beginning. I think what's really wonderful and what my presentation is sort of themed on is the kind of visual arts practices and photographic or lens-based practices the Biennale has started showing or has progressed or evolved from the beginning to now. And I think the presentation is almost entirely photographs or videos of different installations. And I'm going to try to show a few. I might have to skip through some sections as we start lagging on time towards the end. And if you have any questions, please do put them down in the chat and I'll try to get to them at the end. I'll just quickly start my screen share and then begin from there. I'm assuming you can just, Krishna, if you can prompt me, you can see my screen just so that I know that it's all okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes, I just want to make sure. Wait, I'll just go off screen share for 1 second.
Yeah.
Screen share. Sorry. Just 1 second. Yeah, just want to make sure the sound is sharing. Okay, great. So like I said, I'm going to be mostly talking over the photographic slides as I go through them. The talk is about what's behind the Chennai Photo Biennale, contemporary photographic practice in public space. We've evolved a lot since the beginning. I'm going to start always at the beginning about the why we started, or what our vision or ambitions were when we began this journey. And a lot of it has really stayed the same since we began. First of all, we wanted to put Chennai on the map of, contemporary arts. I think as a city, it's an incredible city that I've grown to love as I've lived here over the last 10, 12 years. But it's a city that lacks sort of contemporary practice in the arts. There's a lot going on with the history of photography, dance, music, and it's something we wanted to help expand on. And this is, of course, 2016. We want to inspire, the citizens of Chennai to discover their own city and public art. And so a lot of our venues are in spaces that the city might not have even noticed, and try to bring them back to light. Make Chennai a home for photography in Asia, because, of course, the community in photography, we really felt the void after the Delhi Photo Festival stopped happening. And we wanted to help build that community and nurture it through, the years to come. And of course, through the point of the Biennale, or the purpose of the Biennale, is to nurture some socio-economic impact within this city, because the arts can help change happen across the board. So moving on to my next slide. So a quick overview of the journey so far. 2016 was our first edition. There was a small edition. I'll run you through these editions. After that, we decided, well, this is an organization we need to create to be able to run the Biennale. We put together an education program in 2018, which runs to this day, called CPB Prism. CPB Edition 2, which was a very large edition curated by Pushpamala, was launched in 2019. And of course, the Photo Awards in conjunction with that. In 2020, we established the Learning Lab, our community development wing, which does amazing work. And of course, with COVID, we did the COVID print release. In 2021, we built the Edition 3, which was a mostly online version thanks to COVID. But we did have 6 venues with physical installations. In 2022, we invited to the Cochin Biennale to present an invited project, the Communities of Choice, which is a great moment of pride for us as a foundation. In 2023, we launched our own space, which Ishna mentioned, CPB Lighthouse, which is actually a wonderful building here in the south of Chennai, in Kotivakkam, where we do have a community darkroom, which does really cool stuff. And of course, the CPB Edition 4, which started in December of 2024, which we're just wrapping up from. Sorry, my mouse is acting a bit funny, but a visual journey through CPB is what I'm going to show you. I'm going to run you quickly through from the beginning. I will say that, like I said, there's a lot of different parts of the Chennai Photo Biennale Foundation, the Learning Lab, Prism, the Darkroom, which is a part of the bigger universe of what we do. But today's talk is focused on the Biennale and its own journey, primarily focused through the kind of photography we've been shown. So CPB Edition 1 was in 2016. It began almost very simply as a group of friends that came together with a shared vision that we wanted to do something big for photography in Chennai. It was as simple as that. We found a partner in the Goethe Institute and then director Helmut Schippert, who really encouraged us to say, okay, let's do this. And with very little support and funding, we just decided, well, let's make something big happen. And thanks to, amazing set of friends who many of them are listening, and my co-founders, Gayatri and Shuchi, and several others, all came together with the umbrella of the Biennale, thinking like, let's make something big for photography in Chennai, and then looking onwards to, the rest of India. Urban Water was one of the projects I continue to be very proud of. This was, of course, in response to the floods of Chennai. The Biennale, just to remind everyone, is 2016. In December 2015 is the floods. We had to postpone the Biennale as a result, and we wanted to do something that really tied into this. What that was a residency sort of workshop where we had 3 mentors mentoring 12 participants, some very talented names who now, of course, are quite popular in the Indian scene, as well as mentors like Monim Wasif, Ravi Agarwal, and Andreas Defner, who came together to mentor a group of students. The goal was to produce work in 7 days to respond to the theme Urban Water. This was shown in the MRTS train station, and this was one of my favorites from before the Biennale started. We're working in public space like train station. And so to be able to intervene in a train station in a place where tens of thousands of people pass through every day on their way to wherever they need to go for work or life, that's the wonderful thing about what we want to do. And Urban Water was this station was right next to the canal, which had flooded during this period, quite devastating. So this show was in response. It was a site-specific show, very well received, and continues to be, one of our favorite projects to reflect on. Surrealistic by Nature was curated by Yannick Cormier, a French photographer who lived in Chennai. And Yannick wanted to curate sort of a documentary photography works under the idea of surrealism. And so in a park, Nageshwara Rao Park in the heart of Mylapore, we curated this incredible experience where people, morning walkers, joggers, cricket players, everybody was sort of playing amidst this park with this photography. It was quite a stunning experience. It was very sort of our first time working in large format in the outdoor space. It was really an eye opener for us about what can be done, how people respond, how the park responds. And not all of it was good. People at some point said, this artwork is coming in the way of my badminton court. And so we had to make certain alterations. So simple things like that we learned from this early edition that to me has shaped today how we think about our art installations. Suresh Punjabi, who was shown, really sort of today we reflect of them as humorous studio portraits from, I think, Lucknow, and two simple studio portraits, all in black and white, part of the Al-Kasi Foundation collection. We also invited the Delhi Photo Festival, which we then didn't know was on its last edition, but with Prashant Panjar, his team, Tanvi Mishra, Dinesh Khanna, and several others came together to help us move a section of the Delhi Photo Festival to Chennai, to the Lalit Kala Academy. We showed this incredible sort of retrospective of Kishore Parekh, a stunning body of work on Bangladesh. We showed this in the sort of first floor of Lalit Kala. We had also outdoor installations that were extracted from the Delhi Photo Festival exhibits of 2016. This is Klaus Pickler. I'm moving on very quickly because, of course, time is running. CPB Edition 2 is one edition that really brought us onto the scene of beyond the photography scene onto the stage of contemporary arts in India. One of the large reasons for that is, of course, Pushpamala N, who's an amazing artist herself, who took helm of this edition and really turned how we think of photography on its head, how we imagine installations of photography in public spaces. It was also one of the editions, and we managed to pull off quite a coup in getting permission and access to the building that you see on the left of the screen, the Senate House. The Senate House is a building, a beautiful, sort of colonial architecture that's on the promenade off the beach, Marina Beach, and is sort of one of the iconic buildings of Chennai that for almost 40 years had remained closed for various reasons. And we were able to get access, clean it up, and put together an incredible show that almost became the eye turner of Chennai, and thousands of people from the city, from outside the city, were pouring in just to see Senate House, as much, of course, the Biennale. Some of the practices, I'll sort of quickly show you a video, and so that was also the first edition in which we started collecting sort of data. So we had a visitor feedback. It was our most ambitious edition in scale and size. In the number of artists, we had more than 60 artists who we presented several in large scale installations like you saw. And all of this was a new experience, of course, for us as a Biennale. We had an amazing team that Pushpamala and we had put together. And the goal was at that moment that how do we mix heritage and photography together? So we had not just the Senate House as this beautiful heritage building, but the Government College of Fine Arts, which you see in this photograph, and what the room that you see is actually the museum. which was quite inaccessible, and I'll show you some more images. And so these two buildings together, paired together, really meant that the city suddenly wanted to come and discover itself, because a lot of people in the city had heard about these buildings or seen them there when they were younger, but hadn't had a chance to go in. And what I loved about how Pushpamala had played with these buildings to install photography, juxtapose photography with the built architecture, with the furniture in cases, and really to create a very unique experience. I'll quickly talk about this slide because it's something we're quite proud of, and it's also very important to this point about placemaking for the arts. And what does the Biennale do for a city? Why should a Biennale exist in a city? What is it beyond the fact that we get to show incredible art? What motivates this, and why should a city or a state or a government care? So one of the interesting statistics is, 99% of people who took this survey, 5,000 plus people took this survey, over 51,000 visitors, who said 99% would recommend CPB to their friends and family. 78% became aware of a new art and culture as a result of this experience, the Biennale experience. 85% felt that Chennai should host more such events, also showing that there is this need and demand for contemporary art events in the city. And of course, a lot has happened since 2019 in the city. There is, this Madras Art Weekend. There is other festivals happening throughout the year, which are really exciting to see. And I hope that, in some way we were the spark that will help light that fire. And of course, one statistics that we're very sort of excited about and we try to grow is 75% of the visitors say they will visit Chennai again due to the Biennale experience. And I think, what does that mean? And that means that what Cochin has really showed us, all of us as art visitors, so many of us travel every 2 years to Cochin. We would not typically visit any other city in the country that often on holiday or to sort of partake in an activity like a Biennale. And I think that's what's special about the Biennale, that it repeats and it drives repeat audience, and people who come to the city become more familiar, hence feel more motivated to come and build on their experiences also because they are familiar. And I think that's the beauty of what I hope the promise of the Biennale is. Moving on to some of the kind of practices. Of course, this is a beautiful building. Like I said, the museum at the Government College of Fine Arts in Chennai. Incidentally, Government College of Fine Arts was the first place in India where photography was taught. It was the first, because Chennai arguably is one of the first places where photography landed in India. And here is where it sort of, in this campus is where it was being taught, and as early as sort of 1850s, 1860s. And so there's a sort of history of photography in this city that, the Chennai Photo Biennale grows on. We also worked in beautiful heritage buildings like the Madras Literary Society. What you see is a book installation by Angela Grahols. Angela had photographed books in her library that had burnt down, photographed them using the scanner as the camera. We had blown these images up onto archival paper that had been bound into this large tome that you had to flip through in this beautiful old library. The atmosphere, there are text prompts behind you that the artist had installed. All of this adds to this experience of looking at this big photographic book. It also turns your head on what is photography. Is a scanner of the camera, and can it be used to make images? This, of course, is Sheba Chachi and Sonia Jawar's incredible installation that sat in one of the first floor rooms of the Senate House. To this day, it's the room that many people remember the experience of seeing this artwork, of looking down, looking at these images. The images are essentially photographs, as well as juxtaposed interviews with women who have lost someone in the struggle in Kashmir. And I'm going to show you a quick video clip about this.
Our work is about bringing the voices of women from the Kashmir Valley, which are never heard. My name is Sheba Chachi. I, along with Sonia Jabbar, are presenting our work When the Gun is Raised, Dialogue Stops in the Chennai Photo Biennale. We're in this very beautiful site of the Senate House with stained glass buildings. It's an ancient heritage building, and it's a pleasure to be here. These are the voices of ordinary people speaking about peace, compassion, about surviving in a conflict zone. And we feel it's very important to humanize the discourse in Kashmir so that we don't only see the stereotype of the militant or the stereotype of the brave soldier who is protecting the nation, but we actually listen and see ordinary women. I think the Photo Biennale is an absolutely wonderful project. The sites are amazing and there are a number of brilliant artists showing, and Pushpamala has done a fabulous job.
So I'll rest there for a second to sort of, what this project meant for us was also, it was the first time we were able to think or, in our minds as organizers, look beyond just showing photographic prints on walls, to start imagining experiences where photography was an element, strong element, but still so much more was happening with how the artist created the artwork. This was only one example. There are several from this edition. You should be able to find a lot of this on our website, of course. And there's also a Google Art and Culture page that shows you more of in 2019 edition at least. It also, for us, helped push the envelope of the kind of narratives we wanted to present. There was a lot going on in the country at that time as well, and it was an important voice to shed light on. It was a bold move for us, and we were quite worried about it at certain points. But I think we were able to. I think what is important is we stood our ground where we wanted to present this work on Kashmir. We thought it was an important work. It was an important work to also really present in this experience where people take cognizance of what's going on, and that did pose some challenges, which I'm very happy to say that we were able to navigate and continue to show the work through the duration of the 30-day edition in 2019. We also showed other physical experiences that, helped you question how do you see photography in an exhibition setting? So this is the work of Susanta Mandal, where an image is projected via a lens. Two images are projected. They're interacting with each other on a tissue. You are able to physically, as an audience, manipulate the image to help images change or mold in different ways. So the viewer is also complicit in this creation of the image. And this is also in a small little room as part of one of the chambers of the Senate House. Quite an experience physically. But the whole point being that, the photographic image from a wall can also just be more ephemeral. And how do we create experiences about this kind of ephemeral photographic exhibitions? So another image of this where you can see that it's a play of also light, the very fundamentals of the creation of image, helping people understand that. Another angle. This was Atul Bhala's work at the Senate House, which was, of course, one of the iconic images that many of you might have seen. This is the main hall, the grand hall of the Senate House, where Atul Bhala had sort of taken up the challenge of presenting work that was actually shot not too far from here on the beaches of Chennai in fishing colonies that had been rehoused. Again, a very sort of sensitive issue. And with this imagery, build a sort of maze where the audience was able to walk through as you entered the Senate House. And you would navigate these images all printed on a sort of canvas fabric. And that went from 3 floors down. And, you experienced it again as a very visceral feeling as you came through these, a maze of images. This is a sort of large image of how the experience was during some days of the 2019 edition. With a lot of people coming in because of this curiosity to also see the Senate House as an experience. This is that's Pushpamala in the image. This is a photograph of, her looking at one of the books of Armin Linke, one of the artists who was working on climate change, Anthropocene. And behind it, you see the works of Offset Pitara, which curated a selection of books on photography, photographic books, actually. And it was our first foray into showing photography at the center of the Biennale's experience, where audiences came in, sat down, wore their white gloves, or the white gloves that were provided, and flipped very sort of gently through books and spent hours. And we had never really experienced this in the context of our Biennale in previous in the 2016 edition. And it was a really wonderful sight to see that people were willing to wait for that book that they wanted. They had sort of in their mind slotted, they wanted to see all the books. They would plan half a day, come here, sit. It was a very lean experience, but you really saw people spending quality time. And of course, this building was so much part of that. This is the work that you see is hung of Chan Ho Bei. Chan Ho Bei is a performance artist photographer who had staged this works about, colonial, dressing up in a colonial costume to sort of present this image of the othering of the Asian communities, especially in Western societies, in the UK in particular. And so Chan Ho Bei had, it's called, in costume, and he these beautiful series, and I think it was such a beautiful it almost felt like it was part of this room in the museum. And within the vitrines, you see another set of works by Akhila Vijayaraghavan, who had photographed sort of women work or playing not typical gender typical sports. And I think that was really sort of important. Two bodies of work that intermingled. And this whole room talked about performance and photography and how photography represents your ways of seeing or looking at people. This is the work of Arpan Mukherjee, whose work sort of questions photosensitivity and its sort of racial past, looking at collodion formulas, silver nitrate formulas that have been pervasive through photographic history that loaded the gun against dark skin in many ways. But it's sort of aesthetic that he has owned in his artwork. Moving on to a structure that we created at the Government College of Fine Arts. This is sort of a structure designed by the architecture story because it was an empty giant hall. We wanted to create something that was more than just white cubed walls, to create an experience for viewers to be able to see photography interact with each other. So you see several bodies of work in the image. In the foreground, you see Manishri Vanchapum's work, Horror in Pink. In the background, you see Vijay Jodha's work on farmers. And then on the left side, you see Kaushik Vasudevan's work on sort of what is abandoned by society. And this work, Manishri Vanchapum, I think is a very beautiful work where he is, of course, a photographer who works with stage photography. And he's juxtaposed this pink man who is a symbol of consumerism in today's society onto very horrific moments in Thai history and photographic, part of the photographic past of Thailand. So really a commentary on who we are as, people who are now scrolling through social media. Doesn't matter what we see. It's the consumer that just inside consumer that drives us. This is work, of course, is by Anna Fox, Country Girls. It's a very provocative set of images by Anna Fox talking about, the sexualization of women. And this was presented, again, in part of this experience. So there were 4 galleries as part of this venue, each gallery of 5 that responded to the theme, Fauna of Mirrors, actually. I forgot to mention that. The Fauna of Mirrors, the overarching theme of the Biennale that Pushpamala had coined. So each venue was a different take on the Fauna of Mirrors. And the Government College of Art housed 5 positions on that. This is the work by Archana Hande, which was shown at the Government Museum, Egmore, in it's a beautiful hall called the Centurion Hall, which has not been accessible since then. This is a video projection, 2-channel work, beautiful projection that was built on a sort of a stage that had some silica sand on which photographic art was projected, video art. It was a stunning body of work and an experience. This show attracted thousands of children who really loved how, photography had again been taken on its head, extracted from found images that she had worked on when she was in a residency in Australia, to talk about, this connection between camels being migrated from India to Australia, and the camels going, and so basically them travel across in the desert being a problem. And so this entire project was part of Archana Hande's installation. So another view of that. This is Camp. So this is one of our commissions for 2019 that we're very proud of. We asked Camp to work with the Hindu newspaper photographic archive. They spent some time in Chennai and then the rest of it on Zooms and online file exchanges, preparing what they call the photogenetic line, a sort of installative project tracing the photographic history through the Hindu photo archives. It was built into this large room where people could walk. It was cut out images It was quite an experience, and this show has since traveled several places, from including, I think, Documenta. A small clip of camp.
My name is Ashok Sukumaran. I'm part of an artist group called Camp based in Mumbai. We are here for the Chennai Photo Biennale, making a very large scale photographic experiment with the Hindu newspapers photo archives.
In the interest of time, I'll move forward because I'm at the 25-minute mark here. So we also had projections of photography on Besanagar Beach, which was very exciting to find new audiences in the city. We had different people from different age groups and across parts of Chennai that came in to see, they were on the beach, they just sat down and had a look, young children. It was really wonderful to create new audiences for photography using our video projections. We had projects from colleges that we approached who took over train stations as part of this edition that responded to this edition through photography exhibition installations. This is one of my favorite images from NIFT's installation of the Lighthouse trains, Thiruvanmiyur MRTS. Sorry, that's a wrong caption. I'll just click through these because there are lots to talk about. This is also one of the first times we exhibited our children who we started mentoring. So our 2018, we established our student wing, and there we put together several workshops that happened in lots and lots of schools across children. With the support of Apples, with iPhones, we taught children photography and the basics of photography. And this was again exhibited at the Egmore Museum as part of the Biennale. It was a very beautiful show called Stories of the Ocean. I'll move forward in the interest of time because I do want to get to this edition before we end. CPB edition 3 was a largely online edition curated by Orpo Datto, Bhuma Padmanabhan, Boaz Levin, and Kirsten Maike. It was titled Maps of Disquiet. It was intended to be a grand edition physically that really challenged how photography is looked at from all perspectives and all different kinds of practice. But unfortunately, thanks to COVID, lots changed. We had 34 primary artists, several of which, 12 of which we showed at 6 physical venues, and a custom digital experience from where I'll show you a small clip in a minute. A quick video clip.
several years.
Congratulations, very, very beautiful work.
இந்த தலைப்பே ரொம்ப அழகா லேண்ட் ஆஃப் ஸ்டோரிஸ் அப்படின்னு.
So I won't show more videos in the interest of time. One of the important projects we had started doing in 2021 we did was a beautiful workshop by Sanchayan Ghosh on the body and the image. And they created an installation as part of this edition. Things were very tough to work in a physical space. As you can see, everybody's wearing a mask. It was an incredible time to try to pull off a Biennale, but one that we're really proud of having done. We had 34 participating artists. We built a website. You can see these videos on our YouTube channel where you can see recorded versions of the websites. We showed another project in Kashmir by Sivasai and Vidyavanantam, beautiful work at the Forum Art Gallery where people were again able to interact with the photographic projects. We showed the work of Senthil Kumaran, who was the World Press Photo Wildlife winner, and his incredible work on elephants and their mahouts and the relationship between man and nature. Again, we wanted to present gallery experiences. It was important to us to have achieved. At the same time, it was really beautiful to also be able to expand that online. We had a beautiful work by Hito Style at the Forum Art Gallery. I hope my screen is still running. I don't know if it's not, please do stop me.
It is.
This is the work of Gauri Gill, which we showed, which is actually a book that she publishes the PDF on her website. We worked with Gauri to create a physical installative edition. Also, people could walk away with a copy of these are excerpts from the book presented very simply. And you could also walk away with a copy of the 1984 book that she is continuing to work on as an ongoing project. This is the Saran Raj, where we commissioned the artist to work in Keeladi, an excavation site that is, lit the imagination of the Tamil people. And he worked with the laborers or photographed the laborers of Keeladi, talking about the human aspects of archaeology. And it was a really well-received show. This is Carolina Casito's work at Ashvita, a beautiful sort of serpentine book that was presented in a custom-made table. Working across the ocean with people on Zoom was quite an experience. While I speak, I'll just let the video play. This is the magazine. So this is a magazine that we created out of the Biennale that becomes a legacy. Since it was an online edition, we really wanted every artist to have some print representation. In fact, we still have copies with us. If you're interested, my email will come on the last slide. You can drop me an email. We also had a beautiful student project.
My name is Santino Art Samurai.
Samyukta here.
I'm Megnath.
I'm Rakshita Rajagopal.
For me, the experience with the Land of Stories was amazing. It was really different for me to shoot with an iPhone. I also learned a lot of techniques on how to shoot, about lighting, and how my composition should be to each subject.
I'm happy because I'm first photograph session, so that's museum. So I'm excited.
I normally like to take this animal wildlife photos and greeny stuff and many other, of course, portraits and candid. Of course, my favorite is candid.
So I'll move on. I mean, one of the things we continue to believe in is the work of children as part of the Biennale. And in this edition, we've done a little bit more, which I'll talk about. I won't show that video, but you can see all of these videos. Because I'm about 5 to, I think, maximum 10 more minutes I can go, I'll quickly try to wrap up with CPB Edition 4. We opened on 20th of December, 2024. We had 3 phases I'll talk about in a minute. The theme, why photograph? I'll leave that on screen for a second if you would like to screenshot it for yourself. This theme was inspired heavily by Danita Singh and her online Instagram hashtag, why photograph. And what it means to us, why photograph is about, what is photography today in today's context? Because now the photograph is no longer the realm of just seeing. You can prompt it through AI. What is the purpose of photography? People now create it without thinking. You eating breakfast, you take a picture, you sort of have a car accident, you take a picture, you share a picture without thinking if you want something, from your house to someone else. Photography has become almost like a language now, which is spoken every minute, every second. And so in that context, what is photography? So this Biennale really explored several different ideas under this broad framework of why photograph. I'll talk through some of the primary projects in a minute. Quickly, I'll go through how we constructed this edition. It's the first time each edition of the Biennale has been an experiment on itself, like you can see. Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 was this idea of breaking up the openings of the Biennale to keep a resurgence of audience and allow people to visit at different times of the year and have experiences. So we had 2 kinds of shows, primary shows, which we as the CPB Foundation organized, curated, collaborated, and executed. And the invited projects were where we invited institutions and artists to come forward, partner with galleries or spaces within the city of Chennai to expand the fold of the Biennale. And through that, we were able to present a total of 25 projects almost across 90 days of this Biennale. A highlight video.
not easy to do what we do. It's not easy to have focus and build a biennale of this size.
I think the show is finally come here.
And everybody is accepting it. It's so inclusive.
And then, of course, it opens up the photography discourse for Chennai, split out in different parts of the city.
This show is actually incredible. It's been a long time coming.
So being a photographer, எனக்குள்ள நிறைய கேள்வி இருந்தது. தமிழ்நாட்டுல contemporary photography scene என்னவா இருக்கு? So அதுக்கான பதிலா தான் இந்த வானர் விருதுகள்.
The artist and his art is extremely important.
The aesthetic of the show is so beautiful. It's so important for the city. Tamil Nadu embraces it in such a beautiful location at the Government Museum. Fabulous.
Okay, I will go through some of the primary shows quickly because time is running out. Maybe I can take 8 more minutes, Krishna. So the first project I'd like to talk about is Vanaram Vidagal, Roots That Reach for the Sky. That's curated by Jai Singh Nageshwaran. The idea was we've always, as a Biennale, wanted to work with the local community, but in a meaningful way. And with Jai Singh and the support of the Goethe Institute, we were able to make this into a reality and at least make an attempt to talk, and I'll leave this on screen while I speak. So what's really special about the shows, please keep reading if you'd like, is that we were able to put together a show of 12 lens space artists from this region, from Tamil Nadu, all working with different types of photography practice, all working on different ideas within the realm of, identity in a sense overall, and connected by Jai Singh's own thinking that this is the time for Tamil New Wave. Now, Jai Singh, the way he articulated to us and what we are responding to is that whenever he's asked as the photographer from Tamil Nadu, who are you referencing? Where are your inspirations? Always the reference is elsewhere. And so how do you create a new baseline where we can start referencing photography from this region? And with that idea, this project, Vanaran Vidagal, or the Tamil New Wave, has come out. We presented 12 artists from this region. I'll leave that up for a second, each with a completely different practice. And I'll show you, I don't have time to show all the different projects that we showed, but I think what's really interesting is that we were able to take this exhibition and present it in a mall at a VR Chennai in Ananagar. This exhibition by itself garnered 100,000 visitors over the 90-day period of the Biennale. The show was created like a museum white cube experience because while other parts of the Biennale just want to be outdoors and to be in nature, this exhibition being in a mall, we really felt it was important to create what was going to be a museum experience, because while several of us in the art world frown on the white cube, I think the white cube has also not been experienced by many. And so how do we bring that experience to the mall? This show was presented, each one a different. So what you see in the foreground is the work of Shankar, which is actually a 4-channel video installation, which is a stop motion photography presented as a video installation. This is the work of Vivek Mariappan. It's almost on a language of color that is native to this region, presented in the form of light boxes. You can see again, Vivek's work is in the foreground. On the right side, you'll see the work of Alina Chafanj, whose work is actually, it was a combination of photography with text that she had handwritten as an installation into the exhibition itself. This is the work of Brinda Anantram, which is also on her personal troubling sort of youth, and presented in the form of installation combining photography in different formats. All of this created an experience of 12 artists in not that large a space, but a space that really attracted a lot of new audience for us as a Biennale. And we're very, very excited to have this show now travel to MAP in Bangalore very soon, next month, as well as onwards into Delhi in August. So it's a show that if you can actually have access to see soon in a city near you. A huge shout out to Jai Singh, who I think is listening. Thank you, Jai Singh, for trusting us with this project. I will say that I don't have these lovely videos that I've shown you all along because this edition is just wrapping up. It's closed on the 16th of March. The videos are in process. They will all be published on our website. Each or several of these projects, which I'm showing, are presented in larger detail in these videos. And our website will be a repository for a lot of more of these installation views and artist works. The next project is It's Time to See, to Be Seen, a project very close to us as a Biennale, as a foundation, mostly because my co-founder Shuchi Kapoor spearheaded this project from the beginning. It's a project that she was able to, with several, of course, advisors, including Katrina Gergen of the Goethe Institute, put together a set of artists and make a position, a very important position that she's articulated in this poem. Unfortunately, I don't have time to read through it entirely in the way I'd like to, but I'll leave it on for a second while I talk about this work, this project. The project presented 12 projects and 21 artists, all women artists from different parts of the world. I think a total of 7 countries, if I'm not wrong. And we presented this with purpose in a museum experience at the Lalit Kala Academy. So what you see here is now some of the installation views of the show. This is the work spearheaded by Anna Fox, working with the collective and working essentially to work with a series of refugees who are in the UK, creating a co-authored book that from which extracts have been presented on the wall as an installation. These are on the left, you see the work of Bhumika Saraswati, and on the right, the work of Samar Hasbun from Palestine. Bhumika's work is about women and farmers in rural situations. Palestine. Samar's work, of course, is a very poetic work coming out of Palestine and a very important work for us to search. Offset Pitara, Anshika Verma curated once again for us a sort of a collection of photo books and a sort of experience around photo books, not just showing books by themselves, but showing books as video, as installations, and expanded the footprint of this show with a number of artists. But not only that, our deep interest in showing books as a form of presenting photography today. Again, more installation views. Please do have a look at these on our website. They will be up, towards the end of April. You'll be able to see a lot of these. Love and Light, a Sunil Gupta retrospective curated by Charan Singh, his life partner, was an incredible show. I'll show you some installation views. Love and Light was actually shown at the Egmo Museum in this beautiful park called the Hub. This work was curated almost as a love letter between Charan to his partner. And it was a really stunning exhibition that the architecture story had designed this sculptural installation for us with Jali that really interacted with the space. It created a space for queer communities in Chennai to come and people from all over the world to come, spend time, just relax, hang out, interact. People use this space as a space to relax in the campus of the museum. So many different people from different walks of life were able to experience this very important retrospective in a public space, really marking an important moment for us as a Biennale to be to present a place for opportunity for artists to create dialogue in a new way. His work spans almost 4 decades. We also will be publishing virtual reality click-through experiences where you can see all of these shows in more detail. It had a timeline that went across 1835 to now, peppered with Sunil's own history as an artist, and different bodies of works that were installed in multiple ways, where you were able to confront almost subjects of Sunil Gupta at life size. What Makes Me Click is a project that we created as a children's photography biennale, a biennale within our biennale, where we showed the work of projects from 21 different institutions who work with photography and children. And the project was presented in a playful way in the Egmo Museum campus, engaging more than 15,000 visitors across the 2 months of this phase of the biennale. Really presenting different ways of looking at photography, practice photography and drawing, photography and analog, vernacular photography from really young children from the age of 3 upwards, very simple responses to the world. Alt and Analog, is a project that's very dear to my heart because, the darkroom is sort of my little baby. And Alt and Analog was the first time we did a residency of 3 artists, Holly Brittle from the UK. All these residents spent 45 days in Chennai working in our darkroom to produce this work. Holly's work is at the convergence between alternative photographic and historical photo practice and AI. Incredible exhibition that we presented at the Forum Art Gallery. These are gum oil prints by Arun from Chennai. Gum oil is one of the most difficult alt practices to achieve, and Arun had a long-standing body of work that he was able to finalize or realize in large format as part of this residency. Another view of Arun's work. And this is the work of Soham. Soham's work was on queer communities and really working with alternative photographic mediums, slow photography, as a way to also look at community and community building. We had an open call showcase, which is for the first time we opened up a call. So 1,900 entries from 41 countries. We showed this at the mall, again, garnering more than 70,000 viewers, during this period of the exhibition. We had a beautiful show, which is in a public park of Tamil cinema archives from T. Lakshmikantan, a set photographer who photographed from the 70s, 80s onwards, And this is an unseen archive that nobody had seen, and we put it out in large format in public space for the people to enjoy. And really, it was one of the most well-received shows and experiences of the Biennale, where really, people were able to engage with their own past in many ways. And that is also one of the reasons photography exists, to help you be nostalgic in many ways. Kana Kachal is our college program where we mentored 2 colleges, and we presented the work again at VR Mall amidst this, lakhs of people who are experiencing it. It's the work of college students presented in story format. So they, for the first time, learned photography, photo essays, and they presented these works. And finally, Hey, which is our project with people with neurodivergence, and it's an open call as well as our students that we have mentored. And we were very proud to exhibit this again in the mall, in a public space where lakhs of people got to see the photographic. And this show is actually already in Bangalore at VR Bengaluru, which is in Whitefield. So if you live in Bangalore, please do go have a look. It's a very beautiful show to experience. I'll end here. I'm running out of also steam. We've had 130,000 visitors, which is much, much larger, more than double of what we had in 2019, the last time we took statistics of this kind. 18% of this audience was from outside Tamil Nadu. 8% was from outside India, which is, again, beautiful statistics for us to talk to the government here in Chennai and Tamil Nadu, why this Biennale is important. 82% of these visitors discovered CPB for the first time, thanks to VR Mall. 90% at least covered 3 exhibitions. And I think that's incredible that they, from discovering the Biennale, they become Biennale audiences traveling to see shows across the city. It's also the first time we presented the exhibitions across almost 45 to 50 kilometers in radius from South Chennai to West Chennai. And audiences from different parts of the city was able to experience different shows. And 92% felt happy with the curations and exhibitions. 89% felt they would visit CPB again. So for us, quite a successful edition, not just because of the numbers, but mostly thanks to all the incredible artists. I'll end there. I'll stop my screen share. It's been a wonderful journey, and I wanted to sort of present a run through of how and where we've come. Now, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Varun. Thank you for walking us through some really brilliant artworks and curations. I remember coming across the photograph displayed at the Tiruvannur MRTS when I was commuting back when I was in Chennai. It was such a unique experience, sort of like encountering an artwork at a local station staircase. And again, thanks again for sharing those videos and sort of like taking us to Chennai with you. We have 2 questions on the chat. The rest of you, please feel free to drop your questions there. So I'll just read it out to you for convenience. And there's one question about the MRTS, so maybe I can start with that. I've been a huge fan of the CPB photographs at MRTS stations. I lived in Chennai till 2019. It is an impossibly brilliant idea. I'd leave early for work every day and linger after getting off the train in the evening simply to take in the work. How did you hit upon the idea of MRTS stations as a venue?
Thank you for asking that question. So that history actually goes back before the Biennale. In 2010, preceding the Chennai Photo Biennale, I was part of an organization called Art Chennai. Art Chennai was a multidisciplinary arts festival in the city. And they had approached me to organize photography projects and exhibitions. And one of the ideas we struck around, together was, let's do something in public space. Now, for us, like, where do you find audience? Because putting things under flyovers and parks is one way to do it. But really, this station, Tiruvannur MRTS, receives almost 10,000 to 15,000 people just going through because the IT corridor begins there. And so we just, started in 2010 with that idea. Having received such an incredible response to that first edition, I really love working there. It's also got a lot of history. This year also, we worked very close to that station. For me, it's personally also something that I'm connected to because I live in the south of the city in Tiruvannur, and the station was a way to capture an audience, like you said, Krishna, to create encounters with photography. People were going somewhere else. Now, of course, we learned a lot. And the other half of that question, or to respond to the other face of that question, is we also learned that it's not always, you can't show all kinds of photography there. In 2010, when we had shown just beautiful pictures of Chennai, we got a stunning response. As we started showing more refined and almost photo essay driven practices, we found that it was often people would just pass through, run through, see one picture and move on. I think Sri Lata, you've written that question, or Sri Lalita, you've written that question. I think, you are one of the few who have probably gone, lingered, read, taken time to experience. We found that train stations tend to be very transitive in nature. People have something else in mind. There is a destination. And then if they have time, they have a fleeting moment to catch something. So when we did 2019 with the college students, we really felt that instead of putting different colleges in different stations, we should have put more in one station. And this edition, we didn't go back to a train station as such, mostly because of paucity of time and resources. There's only so much one could do, but it's definitely something I'd like to go back to. It's a challenge that one must attack with its own set of parameters. That how do you create encounters that can be meaningful as fleeting encounters that then drive you to then catch things within this Biennale's framework. Also because you can't create so much sound and installations, it's loud, it's crazy. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next is from Aishani, who asks, can you talk a little bit more about how contemporary installations changed the meaning of Chennai's built spaces? Because many of these buildings and parks were commissioned in the colonial period and were meant for specific uses by specific sections of the community, whereas CPB's exhibits sort of highlight the melee of contemporary society.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I mean, that's something that we try as a Biennale to respond to each time, is how do we look at the built spaces of the city? And there are a lot, and they're growing. In fact, there are more and more new ones that we wanted to work in this year. There's a fantastic park in Ananagar that's come up, and we really wanted to work there, but there's only so much we could achieve. But the whole idea is the city is building spaces, or there are built spaces which are colonial or historical in nature. Often they have single uses. Certain parts of society are spending time in them. They become a neighborhood experience. How do you drive new audiences to rediscover their own city? Because like we did with Senate House, these were commissioned, they are off limits. Often they are set for a purpose, nobody really knows why. And so how do you do that? So I think for us, how does the Biennale respond? One is with putting artwork, because then what we're doing is we're combining audiences. We're combining audiences for the space with audiences for the art. So our audiences discover the space, and the space's audience discovers the art. And I really found that interplay beautiful at 2019 with Senate House and Government College of Arts, because one day I was sitting on the steps of the Senate House, just idling, and I saw an old man being dragged in by what looked like his grandson. And he was like, come on, I want to see this exhibition. And his grandfather was very teary-eyed because in his college days, he had seen this in his graduation or something like that. And he was re-experiencing something from his childhood. And the son was more excited because he had seen something called Chennai Photo Biennale as an ad in the Hindu. And so it's that sort of that relationship that drives it. And I think for us, that's the beauty of working in public spaces. You create these opportunities for people who had never thought they would be into art, who had no idea that they could look at something like this and feel something. It's almost that fundamental that they walk up to a photograph, like in Vanidam Vidagal, for example. So many thousands of people who probably had never seen an exhibition of any kind, of an art exhibition of any kind, in any serious way. Once they entered the threshold, their first question was, what is this? Right? And to the point where we had to put big banners up after 2 weeks saying free photo exhibition, come see, visit now, because people weren't sure, like, what is this? Suspiciously, that what could this be? Why is it here? So, for us, it's very important, and all across the board, in heritage space, but also in parks, in train stations, in beaches and promenades.
Yeah, thank you. We have two people asking if there's any upcoming events in Hyderabad and Bangalore. There is one in Bangalore, so maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, so Vanidam Vidagal is actually traveling to Bangalore from, if I'm not wrong, opening on the 25th of April or 26th. I'm sorry if I got that exact date wrong. But essentially, the entire show, all 12 artists and projects are being reimagined into the MAP's own galleries. And it'll actually be very beautiful to see a different avatar of this show, because we worked with the limitations of a specific environment in a black box of the mall's empty store. And so I'm excited to see what a museum representation of Vanir Milligal is going to be. The curator Jay Singh will be there for the opening. And I'm assuming that, I know there will be several programs, talks, discussions with some of the artists, as well as other people allied to the program. And so Arnika from the MAP is leading that discussion with Jay. And I'm very excited. The artworks are shipping on Monday from Chennai to go to MAP. And in Hyderabad, we don't have anything coming up at this moment. But the Hyderabad Photo Festival, which happens yearly, Indian Photo Festival in Hyderabad, it happens yearly, I think in September or October. And it's again a wonderful festival, which is one of the longest running photo festivals in India.
We're running out of time, but maybe we can take a few more questions, Varun.
I see one there that says something about alternative photography, which I'd like to address, also because that's my area of interest. So, I think in India, of course, there's a lot of beautiful spaces now for alternative photography. Thankfully, there is Studio Goppo in Shantiniketan. There is Maze Collective based in Delhi. There is Museo Camera in Delhi. There is Kanike Studios in Bangalore. And then very recently, last year or 2 years ago, we opened CPB Darkroom, which is a community-led darkroom here in Chennai. The darkroom offers, of course, we sell our own film. We're a commercial lab. We offer workshops in film photography. And we offer, the opportunity for artists to come and work in various different types of alternative photography. Our residency, the first of its kind, which happened last year for us, it offered alternative photography practices and opportunity, and we will have more residencies coming up this year. And we sell cyanotype kits. And if someone is interested in alternative photography, please reach out to us via the CPB Darkroom handle. We're happy to help anyone on this journey. We like to be a resource. We do a lot of research ourselves. We are playing around with wet plate collodion, salt printing, Van Dyke brown, gum oil, gum dichromate, a whole network of processes. We have a research assistant and a research sort of head in the office or in the lab who is every week pushing the envelope on something experimental that we like to do. So there's a lot going on in this space, and it's one of the spaces that's very close to my heart because my personal practice is very much in the direction of historical photography. So reach out.
There's also a question about democratizing photography. And so Sarthak asks, how is the CPB able to democratize photography in the sense bring professionals, amateurs, and diverse audiences together? I think partly you've covered that in the talk as well. He says, I ask this because there's often a distinction between professional landscape or street photography and general snapshot photography practiced with phones, etc.
Thank you for asking that question. Sarthak, I think that's a very tricky question in that sense that so only you who as an artist decide that I'm now professional. There's nobody who can tell you that you're professional. Now, what is the difference, I think, with how we look at photography, at least in the framework of the Biennale, which is where we are today, so I'm talking about the Biennale, is many artists or many young photographers, and not just young, people of all ages who are in hobbyists, amateurs. Photography is beautiful. It's universal. We teach children photography as a way of creative expression. Thousands of, in fact, millions of people use photography as a daily way to see the world. Snapshot photography, what you call is, holiday photography. It's so many things. It's street photography. It's fun photography. It's everything. So I think photography is amazing in its width. Now, how do we look at photography? We look at the idea more or as much as the image. And for us, that's where contemporary photography differs from general, let's say, if you are an art, a lot of people say fine art photography. Fine art photography is a broad umbrella in which it makes it saleable. So you can have fine art landscape photography, fine art portrait photography, commercial portrait photography, all of these words exist. These are all boxes that we as artists and photographers just love to put on each other. I don't know if there is one line in which you cross from the one to the other, but how do we see it? We see that you have to be thinking of yourself as an artist. You have to look at your own work as a collection of images rather than a single image. Or if it is a single image, you have to see it as a piece of art that then has a story that goes beyond the beauty of just the single, what is on the ground, on the film. There has to be something, exceptional from the content perspective, because I think there are thousands of sunset pictures, and I use sunset photography as a euphemism for so much in photography. There are thousands and millions of sunset, and every time I see one, I can't help but say it's beautiful. But beyond beautiful, and looking at it for that 1 second, and so how do you stop someone to come and look at your picture again? And again, since I'm assuming many of the listeners are from Bangalore, do go and see Varun Vidigal, because you'll see 12 different takes on photography. There is photography and video, there is photography and sculpture and sound, there's photography and painting, there's photography and bookmaking. And I'm now talking only about the materiality, the medium. But each photographer has then taken their ideas. So there is artists who are talking about violence against women as a fundamental subject. There are people who are talking about mythology. There are people who are talking about deeply personal narratives like family connections or lost loved ones. There are these narratives that drive this idea of what makes it contemporary photography. And I think in the framework of Vanadam, you will get to see a lot of that. And I really hope that some of the other shows, It's Time, is also able to travel so that you can see. Now, of course, the Biennale, to also answer, I think where you're going with that is, we opened the fold up this year with the open call because we really wanted people to be able to participate. It's one of the greatest criticisms of the Biennale is, how do I participate? And we've always had to say, oh, I'm sorry. So now we finally opened it up. We had a jury from 9 countries that juried this open call. We selected 40 projects to exhibit. And there again, we were able to show a diverse range of photographic practice. Hobbyist photography was also there, right? But what separates the hobbyist from the contemporary artist is just that one day there is you decide or someone else decides for you.
There are 2 questions that pertain to government involvement in CPB. So one is, how open are local governments and central to creative biennales like CPB? Is it a struggle to get to exhibit in so many locations around Chennai? And a related one, so probably you can take these together, is about how did the state government, local administrative bodies and CPB navigate issues of censorship and creative liberty of CPB?
2 very good questions. The first part, I will say that we have collaborated with the state government. In fact, Tamil Nadu and Chennai has been very receptive. When we've gone and had conversations with IAS officers, with ministers, the reaction is always, wow, this is happening. This is incredible. We should do more. But of course, as many people know, in the Indian government, things change every 6 months to a year because of a cycle of changes of personnel, and that often hampers how we make progress. But we've had cooperation. This year, we had the Government Museum Egmore as an incredible venue for the Biennale, presenting challenging projects like the queer photography of Sunil Gupta. Really something that I'm very proud to say that the Government Museum Egmore and the Tamil Nadu government stood behind. I don't know if this can be possible in other parts of India. So kudos, right? I think the Tamil Nadu Tourism Department has been our partner right from the beginning, coming forward with some financial assistance, and we hope to grow that relationship over time. And also not just financially, but to help promote the Biennale as part of, a value proposition of Tamil Nadu and Chennai, because it becomes an asset to attract 8%, almost 10,000 people were from outside of Chennai this edition. 10,000 people came and spent money in Chennai and came and saw the Chennai Photo Biennale. That's a reason for a government to come back. So that is our rhetoric to the government. Now to pivot to the second part of the question, or the second question, which is about censorship, which is difficult, and I think that's one of the reasons that central government is not a relationship we have really worked on, is because we are worried about censorship, especially because we have tried to, provoke with several of the exhibits, of the kind of shows, the subjects of the shows. Each edition we have provoked in different ways. And, without obviously pointing fingers and saying, this is a provocative show, come and look at it. We want to frame artworks that do provoke viewers to think, and also, push the envelope by what can be done in a public space in India. And we have had times, for example, in the Senate House, there was the Sheba Shachi work, which was in Kashmir, where we did get a complaint, and there's certain issues with certain panels specifically referencing one governmental agency as being the proponent of enforced disappearances. this is an artwork, of course. And so when we approached the minister at that time of culture, he simply asked us to put up a sign saying this is a work of art. And so that's what we did. We put up a sign that said this is a work of art. We were very worried and we were prepared to censor the artwork and make a big hue and cry and PR thing about it. But then we weren't required to. We were able to navigate it in an amicable way, with the complaint also being sort of suspended. And similarly, in more recent times, we've had complaints, and luckily we've not had to censor anything of significance. It's always been something that's in the back of my mind, as the director of the festival, that there's going to be that call, there's going to be the complaint, and it's a reality I live with. But I think that's part of the uncertainty that one must embrace if you want to do challenging work in public space and challenge status quo.
Thank you so much. That was an important discussion to have, I think. We have two more. I hope you have time to take a couple.
Sure.
Yeah, so there are two slightly technical questions. One is from one of our members herself. How do you think the device determines the quality or overall artistic appeal of the final product? That's the photograph or image. And the other question is, what's your opinion on silver gelatin prints? Is it a process that is slowly fading?
So two parts. I think the first question on device is one of our favorites, because we teach photography with mobile phones. In fact, I think my co-founder Gayatri is here, who runs our student wing, and we've been teaching since 2018 with mobile phones. And photography at a fundamental level is about composition, which is about seeing. And honestly, your camera is just a tool. And Cartier-Bresson had a famous line where he said, your best camera is the one that's always with you. And today we always have a camera with us. So I think, quite simply put, I don't see yes, there are characteristics, there are file sizes, there are lenses. If you decide to blow up your picture beyond a certain size, your mobile phone will not be able to produce the image that's required for that. Or you will have to shoot it in a very specific way. So there are limitations that are posed by certain devices. But my personal work is entirely on analog. I haven't shot a digital camera except for my mobile phone probably in the last 15 years. And I shoot with all kinds of weird plastic cameras lying over here, with toys that just have a lens, with large format film cameras, with medium, with really fancy, expensive cameras, and things that cost less than 1,000 rupees. And the image is the image, and each one produces an aesthetic to me. You choose your tool based on the aesthetic, but your eye has to be trained first to see. I think that's the first frontier to cross if you want to see and imagine yourself as an image maker of any value. And with that journey, you have to also evolve what you're trying to say with your photographs, because just simply making images can often also become an exercise in ego as much as anything else.
That's right.
The silver gelatin, it is a dying art. I think today maybe there are 5 places in India or 10 you can go to for silver gelatin. CPB darkroom is one of the few places that one can. In fact, very recently, Pushpamala was in our darkroom to produce a set of silver gelatin prints, which she hadn't been able to do for years. And we are now trying to add silver gelatin to the repertoire of what we offer our community to print. It's a dying art. It's a lovely art. Is it dying? Yes. It's very difficult to achieve. You need a darkroom, you need enlargers, you need safe lights, you need chemicals, you need space. I wouldn't recommend everybody does it at home also because of the toxic nature of some of these chemicals. So yeah, it is a dying art. It's something that I would love to hold on to personally, and I'm trying to build a community around it with the CPB darkroom. But I also see that digital printing is fantastic. And for anyone who says, oh, it is not the same thing. But honestly, I feel color printing is surpassed in digital printing or in inkjet printing than ever in traditional darkroom printing. Black and white, yes, silver gelatin is wonderful. If it's important to you as an artist, then yes, important to stick to it. But that also becomes part of your practice. But if your practice first needs to evolve from just the photography.
Thank you. There's one light question. I guess we can probably end with that.
Okay.
Which is, what are some of the interesting responses you received to the question of why photograph from your audience at the beginning? Yeah.
So why photographs? My favorite is it's there because it's there. And I think that's also references what was said when someone's first time saw Mount Everest, because it's there, you surmount it. So you take photographs because you can, because it's there. I I think for us, what do I photograph for? I mean, I think you photograph for births, you photograph for deaths, you photograph at weddings, you photograph at rituals, you photograph often without thinking. You photograph before you think nowadays. Uh, you you photograph for therapy. If you want to have a break, you photograph for therapy. You photograph to make you happy because you really, creation is happiness. So you photograph for that. You photograph for evidence. So we have one customer, the CTP doctor, who uses film to record evidence which goes into a court of law. So you photograph for evidence. You photograph in forensics. You photograph in science in the biology laboratories. So photography has so many applications of what it is used for and why you do it or why you pursue it. Doctors use photography, lawyers use photography. Every company in the world uses photography to promote themselves. So you can't get away from photography. But in the context of contemporary art, it's the why that matters to us as much or more than the how and the what.